Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Storytellers and Naysayers. Naysayers because of my last name, and my buddy said you should call your fan base the Naysayers. So why not? So without further ado, I'm bringing my friend. I met him in Jacksonville, Florida. He's a storyteller. He runs his own show with his lady up in the Hyperion Brewing Company. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Patrick Young. Hey, Patrick, how are you?
Hey, Sareth, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for being my guest on the show.
Yeah, man, great to see you.
Awesome, awesome. Right back at you. Great to see you too. And I can't wait to perform again with you at Orlando Fringe, the big show coming up on the 18th.
I'm looking forward to it, man. That's going to be a fun night.
Most definitely, most definitely. Good stuff. So, Patrick, your education includes a BA in sociology from Shippensburg, University of Pennsylvania. What was it like during your college years in Pennsylvania?
Shippensburg was an interesting town. The student body was about 6,000 people, and the town's population was about 6,000 people. So when school was out, literally half the population of the town would leave. So
Wow.
it was an unearthly peace would descend over the town in the summer months. They had some summer classes then, um, mostly to grind out some of your gen eds, but you'd run into like a handful of college. If you ran into a college student, you'd be like, "Oh, thank God," you know, and you'd hang out with people you ordinarily wouldn't hang out with. So it was a really fun time and just a different mix of folks if you were there in the summertime.
Awesome. Good stuff. And why sociology and why Pennsylvania?
Why Pennsylvania? I grew up in Pennsylvania near Philadelphia, so I had the state residency thing going for me. Um, and the I was thinking about putting myself through school the rest of the way, and I knew I could get good loans and grants and stuff for my undergrad going to one of the Pennsylvania state schools. Um, the bigger Pennsylvania schools that you've heard of, like Temple, Penn State, University of Pittsburgh, those are all state land grant universities. So they kind of are state supported, but they're not like owned and operated lock, stock, and barrel by the state. They're probably, I want to say 18 to 20 full blown state colleges in Pennsylvania, and Shippensburg is one of them.
Awesome. I went to a state college myself, Colorado State. So,
Nice.
yep, no CU buffs, but it was a sister school, so that way it was much cheaper, and their mass comm department was much better than the entire state. Maybe the rest of the country, one of the top 10 for sure.
Yeah.
So, indeed,
Okay.
awesome.
If I may, I'm going to step off camera for just a second. I've got an old dog who's scrambling on the floor and can't get up. Let me just scoot her over real quick and pardon me 1 second.
All good, Patrick. All good. Shout out to all the pups out there
Yeah.
and all good stuff. And Patrick's information, like Facebook group and all that stuff, and Instagram is in the description box below. So like and subscribe and follow his pages.
Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. And you got an MDIV from a blank fundamentalist seminary in the Pacific Northwest that you'd rather not name. Was that school that bad?
Oh, well, it's a Master of Divinity, and it's sort of the a preferred degree for people who want to be pastors or missionaries or chaplains. I am none of the above, and the school that I went to was just a little bit more conservative than I have taste for now, and yeah, so I'm kind of a little bit disappointed with my school's background to some degree, but religion aside, it's really a humanities degree. You know, there's public speaking, there's history, there's you know, art and literature and stuff like that. Uh, and so I kind of lean on it more as just as humanities. You know, it's about one of the longtime pursuits of humanity, and in the broadest strokes. And um, I get to. Uh, I guess the point was to process the features of life with established symbols or not established symbols, whatever you're into, with people who want somebody to walk with them when they're sad or lonely or grieving or happy or just engaging in momentous parts of life.
Most definitely. I wasn't pretty happy with the first part of my schooling either. It's I flunked out of a community college, so it wasn't the best college years of my life. But you have a worse story from your higher learning degrees.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, indeed. Awesome. So for the past 12 years, you've been telling true stories, 5 to 7 true personal stories, embarrassing yourself, and the audience alike.
Yeah.
So what got you into storytelling for the past 12 years?
Well, years back, I moved from Pennsylvania to Corpus Christi, Texas, where I knew absolutely no one. Um, and it was interesting. I moved out there and I was leaning just kind of extra hard on my old buddies. Um, and I was calling them all the time. And this one buddy of mine, George, in Philadelphia, uh, I was talking to him like, what are you up to, George? And he said, well, I'm telling a story at a story slam. And I'm like, what the heck is that? He's like, it's a sort of a storytelling contest. And anyway, well, he told a story at the story slam with First Person Arts in Philadelphia. He won, and uh, he got I think it was $100 or a couple $100 prize. So that kind of made me sit up a little bit. Like, that sounds kind of interesting. Now, it might have been 3 or maybe 5 or 6 years after that that I went back up to Philly to visit, and I was staying with George, and this one night he said, "Hey, First Person Arts is having a story slam. Do you want to tell a story?" And that kind of an invitation in Philadelphia sort of includes an implicit comma sissy, or little pink meow meow kitty, whatever you want to call your buddies. Uh, um, and I went up and I told this story, and I think the judges gave me like a 4.6 out of 10. Part of it was just, it was my first story. Part of it was that I was feeling anxious about my skill compared to the other folks who were telling stories. And it is still out there on YouTube. But I kind of enjoy that it's up there, knowing I'm better at this feature. I can handle this better now. And I've told several other incarnations of the same story. Would I always win? Would I win a story slam? Maybe, maybe not. There's some talented storytellers out there, but I kind of appreciate that I have that first recorded video of a storytelling event, and know that I've come a long way since then.
That's awesome, most definitely. And I'm so thankful you and Sarah have the story arts workshop for us, and we can sign up, and the first 10 speakers get a drink from Hyperion, and
Mhm.
they're always kind with the drinks and stuff. So
Yep.
yeah.
They usually keep the tokens coming. Usually we try to keep it to kind of one token per storyteller, but if more people keep signing up, they keep slinging the tokens out.
Wow. Good folks, good folks.
They really
And
are.
and I remember like we did the Christmas story together
Uh-huh.
with Scrooge, and then
Oh yeah,
we
yeah.
had the oh, go ahead.
We didn't do it this last year, but I really missed it. Yeah, we did it 3 years in a row. We did a live reading of A Christmas Carol,
Okay.
and it was definitely missed. But it was also happening around the time that Sarah and I both came down with COVID, so we were pretty laid up with it.
Yeah. That's some scary stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Like bah humbug to that.
Yes.
Indeed. Yep, I always get a Christmas story and a Christmas Carol confused, but then I'm glad you corrected me on that one.
That's okay.
Yep. So no shotguns, you'll poke your eye out, kind of thing.
No, I love that one. I mean, never failed to watch A Christmas Story uh, every year at Christmas, but yeah, it was definitely the Dickens thing that I think we did together.
Yep, yep. And TPS really must love that movie if they're gonna put it on 24 hours for the entire Christmas.
Oh yeah, and there's so many different productions of it. It's surely one of the most produced plays in the world.
Yep. Indeed, most definitely. And so was that the friends there that happened in the story slam, was that where George came in with the Philadelphia, or was it a different friend?
Oh no, that was George. I was staying with George, and uh, it was really cool because I was up there in January of 2010 and 2010 or 2011, 2012. I don't know. But anyway, but I was there early in the week, and they had that pretty good snowfall. And he and his wife were both teachers, so they had the days off. So we had got even more time together than we were expecting.
Ah, indeed. I've been
And
in. I live. Oh, go ahead.
um, well, I came back home to where I was living in the Hilton Head, Savannah area, and I was like, okay, I've got to improve my game. So I looked around. I searched. I talked to people that I knew in theater, and there just wasn't any kind of true personal storytelling happening in the Savannah Hilton Head area. So I started this group, the Story Arts Workshop. Um, we used to meet. We used to meet at sometimes at the Muse Arts Warehouse Community Theater or Savannah Coffee Roasters. Then kind of found a semi-permanent home at Foxy Loxy. It's a lovely old Victorian residence that's been converted to a coffee shop, and it's a lovely place. They do lots of spoken word and stand-up comedy and good things like that, and they've got a pretty good kitchen too.
Awesome. I love when all those arts combine like in one venue, and I wish there was more like it. I mean, back in the day, Hyperion had stand up, and now just storytelling, and they have
Yeah,
music there too. But it's just always great that venues have us like that, and I enjoy
yeah,
your storytelling events because like they're always engaged, and and they're so respectful, like from the staff to the storytellers to the audience. It's just a really cool vibe.
yeah. It's very enjoyable, easygoing, and um, you know, uh, we're in our fifth year telling stories there, and we really have developed a cadre of regular storytellers, and yourself included. We get folks coming in and telling all kinds of stories. Some people are like stand-up comics who kind of want to uh, go into a little bit more narrative sort of a mode. Um, we've got other folks who have been into the poetry slam thing, and they're just kind of like shifting over to more prose. Um, and just people who we have a good many people who just ended up at Hyperion, um, and weren't expecting a storytelling event at all, and just enjoyed what they heard and jumped in.
It's a beautiful sight for sure. And I watch, when you mention stand up comedians and storytelling, I watch This Is Not Happening a lot. And from Comedy Central, where the comedians go to a gentleman's club and they tell us a true story. And it's like Ralphie May is on there and like a bunch of other people. And it's just like such an awesome thing. Like
Nice.
Big J. Okerson. So if you get
Mm,
the chance, there's a bunch of clips on YouTube about in their entire stories. And they are wild. And I love your stories because like you have the X Files that I was on, and I told stories
yeah.
about my ex roommate, and
Yeah.
then the
Yeah.
alarm last time, and where the Fourth of July and the whole Mercury Sable thing. It's just
Nice.
indeed awesome. So you've organized and emceed hundreds of storytelling events. Hundreds? That's a lot of the storytelling events.
Yes,
Where
sir.
else have you hosted since, other than Jackson and so forth?
Well, apart from storytelling, when I was in the Savannah Hilton Head area, I emceed and organized a movie discussion group. We would watch a movie together, and then I would research the movie and would moderate a discussion about the movie, and it was really interesting. I mean, I think we had as few as six and as many as like 80. Depending on the movie. Um, there were people who would come who just kind of got dragged into it from a friend who enjoyed coming, and they would very often say, what, I never would have chosen to watch this movie by myself. Um, and if I had, I would not have enjoyed it. She's like, but this discussion really opened this movie up for me. I remember a bunch of people saying that about Birdman, if you remember that years back when it did really well with the Oscars. Of course, I rubbed my chest and I would say, well, it was up for the Oscar, and we gave the Java Flux treatment to Birdman. It won. I'm just saying.
Shout out to Michael Keaton.
Yes,
Yeah.
and everybody
And
else involved with that one. That was a crazy, fantastic production.
oh yeah, I
So many
enjoyed it.
long takes. It was unbelievable.
I loved it. I loved it, and I'm so glad. When before we told stories this past Thursday, we talked about horror movies and stuff, and so it was a pretty cool when you mentioned you had like those the movie talks, and it brought me to that memory, and then it brought me back to when you had the Rocky Horror Picture Show screening at the Hyperion, and
Yep.
we were participating with the newspaper and the water guns and the candles and stuff. Good times. Hopefully, you bring that back. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'd really like to. Things weren't working out with the dates that we had chosen, and Hyperion tried to flex with us, but we just couldn't make it work with how busy we were and how busy Hyperion was. And yeah, and Rocky Horror is sort of a special movie for Sarah and I. I think on our second date we sat down and watched it. At her for the first time, and me, I couldn't tell you how many times I had seen it. But since then, we've gone to an annual production of Rocky Horror in Savannah at Club One, and memorized as many of the callbacks as we can, and we are locked and loaded, pretty much ready to go to any any screening of Rocky Horror and shout out helpful information.
Indeed, that was a lot of fun for sure, and
Yeah.
I one of my favorite memories with you for sure. Indeed, and how everyone dressed up as the characters too, and I was just like regular me, and I was like, I don't know what's going on, but we're just gonna have some fun tonight. So it's awesome.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who really get into dressing up like the for the like Rocky Horror characters.
Hmm. Most definitely, good stuff. If anything, I'll probably bring my leather jacket and be Meatloaf's character.
There you
Yeah,
go.
yep. Just leave the motorcycle at home since I don't have one. So yep, indeed. So you spoke of Sarah, and you have and we met your dog earlier, and one of your dogs. You have two dogs, three cats, and your wife Sarah. And what are your dog's names and your cat's names? And we know
Oh,
Sarah for sure. Give
okay.
us a little background on Sarah too, if you'd like.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll start with Sarah since she's the best.
Indeed.
We met online on the OkCupid app. She was vetting guys or gals for a guy friend of hers, and she made a profile, and she wasn't really looking to date at the time, but she had a profile, um, and she had set up her parameters, for somebody kind of nearby in XYZ. Um, and I think I had my parameters set for, like within 15 miles of Savannah Hilton Head or something like that. And um, she was in Jacksonville here. And uh, um, every now and then, OkCupid, if they think you're a particularly good match, but one of the parameters is kind of a stretch. They'll say, "Hey, you might want to think about this person, even though they're outside of your distance parameter or whatever, because they're like, just take a look, see what you think, and they kind of have this like quick match thing where it's like, don't like, and I guess I clicked like on a cute picture of her, and she clicked like on a cute picture of me, and all of a sudden she said like, boop, this little thing popped up and said, "Oh, you guys have both liked each other. You better start talking or it's going to get awkward." And I think we both had been in enough relationships in our lives that, um, we kind of had a sense very early on, I think, in our communication and when we first met in person, that we kind of felt like something could very well work out here. And behold, it did. So we're getting ready to 7th anniversary of the first date coming up.
That's awesome.
Oh, our eighth anniversary of our first date, October 31st of this year. And then we got married roughly slightly less than 2 years after that.
Wow. Congratulations. That's an awesome story.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Indeed. And I'm glad your first date was on Halloween. So that's fantastic.
yeah. We saw Crimson Peak.
Oh, the Guillermo movie.
Yeah, we met in the middle. We met up in Brunswick, Georgia, which, as you know, is the Paris of the South Georgia coast.
Oh,
But anyway, that's what we claim anyway. Um,
awesome.
but anyway, so you were also asking about my dogs and cats.
Yep.
I got my two dogs, Callie and Philly, in when I was in seminary. Uh, I was doing a hospital chaplain internship at a hospital up in Columbia, South Carolina, and I had three wards that I would work in. The I had half of the oncology ward, half of the PT rehab floor, and half of the neonatal intensive care unit. Um, it was a really slow day on the neonatal intensive care unit, and it was just in this great big ward, the head nurse and me and one baby who was doing okay. Um, and so she and I were just kind of sitting over talking to each other over the countertop at the nurse's station. We got to talking about life and this and that, and I was like, you know what? I haven't had a dog for 3 years, and that's 6 years too long. And she goes, oh, my daughter just came home from college, and um, she was coming home from a party the other night, and it was storming. And they lived on this off of this dirt road outside of Batesburg, Leesville, way out in the country, and it was storming, and these two puppies she saw muddy on the side of the road, and she picked up the puppies and she put these wet, muddy puppies in my car, and then she brought the wet, muddy puppies into my house. And then it didn't get along with her dog that was already there. Um, but they fostered the dogs. They got them cleaned up, got them their shots, and she's like, they are sweet as can be, and I'm dying to find a good home for them. So I called my seminary roommate, and I'm like, hey, this one head nurse that I work with says that she's got these two pups that she's dying to find a home for. I said, you want to go check out these dogs? Would you mind having puppies? And he was actually from Florida. And what I recall him saying was, shoot, you're asking me if I want ice cream. Um, so we went out to check out these puppies, and they both came home with us. Uh,
Awesome.
Now, my buddy was in a New Testament Greek class, and he was banging his brains out trying to learn Greek. And I had it the previous summer, and we were trying to think, well, what are we going to call these dogs? And they're both beautiful dogs, but they were in a box in the back seat. I was driving, but I was kind of keeping one hand back in the box so they could pay attention to my hands and not like the upholstery, you know. Um, so I noticed that well, one of them, they're both beautiful, but the one Callie. Calais is a New Testament Greek for good or beautiful, and as we kind of anglicized to Callie a little bit. And I had my hand back in this box, and this one dog, the other one, just kept licking and licking and licking. And I said, "Hey, what's the Greek word for kiss?" And he didn't know it, but he looked up on his phone. The modern Greek word for kiss is philie, so we anglicized to Philly. So Callie and Philly are their names. Ironically, I was born in California and grew up near Philadelphia, but Greek is the source of their names. So um, also, I married into one of these cats, and we had another cat that passed. Another friend of ours here in Jacksonville was fostering two cats that she found in the parking lot of the apartment complex where she lives, and also had another story of these little ones didn't get along with their established cats. So she was trying to find a good home, and she's like, I know you guys are probably still grieving that one cat that passed, but would you have room in your hearts to have a play date with these two? They're still here on the play date 3 years later. So their names are
Good stuff.
Tobias and Lyra. We call them Tobes and Lyra. So
Awesome.
they're
Good stuff.
yeah, they're our babies.
I'm glad you rescued them, or they rescued you. So,
They rescued me. That's right.
awesome. Good stuff. Most definitely. And Patrick, you're the director of the extended day after school program in Northeast Florida. And what got you into that field?
Well, a couple things. I wanted to have a job that I felt was of benefit to humanity. The previous job that I had was making okay money, but I was working as a customer service writer for um, RPM Automotive. It was an interesting place, and I had a great place to get my car repaired, and I got some killer deals on parts for being an employee, and the hours were getting longer, the corporate demands were getting deeper. It had been a locally owned company that's now owned by Pep Boys, um, which is fine and dandy, but there's much more of an ethos of um, taking care of your customers and being educative. If somebody doesn't know what their alternator is, you help explain what it is, and that's what's wrong with your car. And this is how we figured that out. Um, and the new arrangement just seems a whole lot more driven to generate profit for our shareholders. And it just the ethos of the place changed, and it wasn't my bag anyway. So I had a friend who uh, Jamie Hillier, who's a storyteller, and told stories with us. You may have met her once or twice at Hyperion. Um, is a school counselor at the school where I work now. Um, and last summer, I was ready to get away from RPM, and uh, she was like, "Hey, there are jobs at my school. Come work with us. It's cool." So I went onto the website and I was like thinking, maybe I can be a teacher. Could be interesting. And uh, I got into some conversations with the principal, and she was like, "Well, hey, I don't know that I could give you a teacher job right off the bat." She's like, "But given your experience and your interests, you might be interested in this full time extended day program that I have. I'm looking for a director for the afternoon program." So I jumped in, gave it a shot, and I'm loving it. I feel like working with kids. It's like they are so intense. It's like they are sweet and precious, and they are awful and ghastly, and they are um, loving, and they are egocentric. But they're all of these things all together, all at once, relentlessly, and the good stuff wins out, I think. It's really sweet. You could be having a rough day, and all of a sudden you get broadsided by half a dozen hugs. And Up on my mantelpiece, let me grab this one little thing for me. One of my favorite things ever is my birthday this last January, working at an elementary school. And oh my God, they were singing "Happy Birthday" from every direction multiple times a day. And I got little things like this. Hold on one sec. Let me grab this.
Okay, sounds good. Oh, that's fantastic.
Mr. Patrick, happy birthday. And the girl drew the picture of me and Mr. Patrick. You might not be able to see that so well with the light. Um,
Oh,
and She says, "I love you." And this and that. So that is mantle place material.
indeed, good stuff. That's
It's
so, you're one awesome teacher,
well, thank you.
director. Yeah,
Yeah.
all that good stuff. Indeed. So you're a carbon-based life form who needs coffee and white coffee. What's your favorite coffee and all that stuff, like Dunkin' or Starbucks or
Well,
mom and pop shop?
thousands of years ago in 1990, I worked at a coffee shop called Barney's Coffee and Tea, and I think it got started in Lakeland, um, but Barney's was sort of Starbucks before Starbucks was Starbucks. Um, and they had lots of varieties of flavored coffees and decaf coffees and regular coffees, and from all over the world, different flavor profiles and things, and different price points. Um, and it really taught me to that there's depth to coffee out there. And um, one of the things that I remember was not being that much of a coffee drinker, but it sounded interesting and it smelled great in the coffee shop. All that fresh coffee being ground up and brewed, and you would taste it black, and you would taste it uh, with sugar or with cream, but mostly you would just do just the plain tasting with hot black coffee. And there was some stuff that was inexpensive but not bad. Family Blend was $5.99 a pound. The most expensive at the time was Jamaican Blue Mountain, and it was like 36, 38 bucks a pound. It's might be less than that now, but it used to be sort of Jamaican Blue Mountain was like the creme de la creme, the high end coffee in the world, and number two was Hawaiian Kona. And you still find that, but I think there's another variety or two that are considered to be above Jamaican Blue, but I don't exactly know what. But Christmas was crazy working at this coffee shop, because all kinds of people were coming in. They were trying this and trying that, and they wanted to try the candy cane flavored coffee, whatever, or amaretto flavored, or the Irish cream flavored, or decaf this or fancy that. And there was a cappuccino machine and espresso machine, and we would very often say, "Oh, it's down," because we would have lines across the mall, and like every person would be like, "I want an espresso," and God bless people who want espressos, but the process was not fast, and we're just like you just couldn't, and most of the store's business was at our takeout window. People just walk up and they'd smell that coffee, like, "Oh, give me some of that coffee." But in the holiday hullabaloo, one of the things that we would do for ourselves when things were just nuts, one of us would basically spring for the $5 for the cheap stuff, and we get a pound scoop. And back behind the counter, there were 5 or 6 of us working. One of us would just chuck the whole scoop, and it would rain down coffee on top of everybody. And it was going to be this outrageous, and then people would step on the coffee beans, and it would smell like heaven. And but it was a good time. We had a really good time when there. I guess I was in my early 20s, and we'd go out afterwards and be 20-year-olds and have a good old time.
Indeed, good stuff. Like my favorite part of driving into Jacksonville is smelling the Maxwell House uh, factory, and you're just like smelling the coffee, and
Yeah.
like, oh, it smells so nice.
Yeah, one of the things that we get, depending if we get the weather out of the Southwest, we get this every now and then. We get a smell from like a company that makes scent for like Mop and Glow or something like that. Um, you know, and if we get it from the South, we get that Maxwell House scent blown up our way. So that's more preferable than Mop and Glow.
Yep, indeed. Indeed. Awesome. I love the smell of coffee. Like I prefer my coffee black and like nothing else, but um like then I go decaf because sometimes it just gets me all wired up. But I don't know how people can do espresso either. They're just crazy.
It's very strong, isn't it? I remember talking with some older folks I was in contact with where I was working, and I'm like, I'm working at this coffee specialty shop called Barney's, and they're like, specialty shop, coffee is coffee. You drink it till you shake and then you stop. That's one way to do it. And I for sure have made use of whatever coffee was at hand or offered me. But yeah, a nice fresh ground cup is good stuff.
Most definitely. Indeed. And so you are an ENFJ on the Myers Briggs Zodiac. What's all that about?
Uh, the Myers-Briggs personality survey is it's interesting. It's people still pay attention to it because it's easily digestible. There are let's see, I guess 16 personality typologies. Uh, there are like two options for each one of those letters, and there's a extrovert or introvert. I don't remember what N is or what its opposite is, uh, or the other one. But the last one is either J or P, and it's either judgmental or pastoral. And I'm J. So, um, but in any case, but every now and then I would get a P, depending on things. Now the thing is, it's easily digestible. People remember it, and it is, however, old science now. There are other personality surveys and indicators and things like that. But back in the day when it was started, eugenics was a good idea. Which we of course have very much moved on from. Um, and behavioral science is still a young science, but it's also not old enough. I wish we knew so much more scientifically about human behavior uh, than we do, but we still know. We've still learned a thing or two.
Indeed, most definitely. I'll have to take the test too, because my zodiac just tells me I'm a Capricorn and three other signs. So
Yeah, I'm Capricorn myself, but um, every now and then you find people who are just leaning a little bit too hard on this personality typography. It's like, it's like I said, it's easily digestible. There are 16 things, versus similarly 12 signs of the zodiac, right? Um, and um, so sometimes you'll see like a Facebook group with whatever you turn up with uh, on the test, and be like, is it really a good idea if I date an INFP, or I don't know,
indeed, for sure,
but they're like, I don't know, you make it work maybe.
for sure.
Don't know if you
It's
don't
def-
try.
that's for sure. And I should definitely give that a shot too. So, and figure out what my person is like, because I clash a lot. So I just know what Capricorns are compatible with. So it's either Earth signs and water signs, and that's about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Me neither.
Yeah.
I just go to Casadega. I'm like, you deal with this. So, awesome. So, you do the first person arts and Bab's Lab and the Wild Youth Festival and also the Story Arts Workshop. Tell me stories of your experiences from all four of them.
Okay. Well, I told you earlier sort of the story of my first story. That was with First Person Arts Philadelphia. I told another story. Also, I didn't do very well, but uh, have just kind of like to some degree come to my own through repetition and some observation from myself and from others. Let's see. We also I've done story slams, and I've attended and been in story slams with Babs Lab at Cork Arts District North here in Jacksonville. Uh, Babs is a superstar, trained to be an actress. Was also an editor for what was the guy's name? Andy Warhol's uh, art and culture magazine. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but she's an amazing person who's super talented and has seen some amazing life stuff. She's a royal storyteller, um, and her kids Matt and Luke are both superb storytellers. In fact, I kind of hate it when I'm on the stage with Matt because he's damn hard to beat. I don't think I can. Um, he's a wonderful guy as well, Matt Colacello. Um, but yeah, and I've taken her class. She takes an interesting approach to teaching storytelling, where if you're familiar with improvisational theater, um, she combines improv with storytelling uh, because I mean you can recite a story like a monologue, but you have so much more of a live sense of conversation and personal connection if people kind of know their points and are and reach out from there to connect with the audience. um, versus necessarily memorizing all your perfect words and where you're going to be and how you're going to say this. Those are, valid considerations for any kind of performance. But when storytelling is a little bit more live, it just feels a little bit more human.
Indeed.
Yeah, let's see what else was on that list. Oh, the Wild Goose Festival. Um, I, in brief, describe Wild Goose Festival as a hippie church camp for adults, with all the accoutrement. And it's been in the North Carolina hills. Sarah and I have gone there every year since we've been married. We actually eloped on the way up to the first Wild Goose Festival that we went to together. Used to be in Hot Springs, North Carolina. Now it's in, I believe it's called Union Grove, North Carolina. Um, we've got friends from all over the U.S. that go up there, and we have a good time talking, shooting the shit, and drink a beer and whatever else, and tell stories around the campfire. And a couple guys have guitars, and we'll stay up and sing all night. This last year, at this new location in Union Grove, there are some folks from Western Virginia, which isn't far off at all from where we are in North Carolina, um, who are bluegrass artists. And man, they started when the sun went down, and they went on playing bluegrass into the wee small hours. And it was just delightful to wake up and just hear simple music with no words. There was just this music happening in the summer night, and it was delightful. Um, Now, I've been in storytelling, story slams there at the Wild Goose Festival. I've also put on some story slams there and taught some mini seminars to teach people sort of rudimentary, true personal storytelling. Um, I'm going to do it again this year, and let's see. I think one of the first stories that I told uh, at the Wild Goose Festival, there was the story slam that was during the day, and I can't remember what the story was because it was kind of unremarkable. But there was a nighttime one that happened. They did a storytelling open mic around 11 at night at this one big tent. Um, and I told a story of a wardrobe malfunction that I had that was kind of extra and protracted. It kind of went on and on and on. And I was telling this story about overexposure. And uh, I was looking around, and I see there was this one family that we'd become friends with two younger kids and a young couple. And I was friends with the young couple. And all of a sudden I'm telling this story about something sticking out that shouldn't. And I look up and I see my two friends kind of shuffling, like the dad was kind of wild eyed and like shoving his kids along, like, let's get out of here. I'm just kind of like, oh my God, what is going to happen? I'm never going to be able to do anything that I want to do in this group again, because I told this horrible story and my friend's kids heard it. And I found out later, he's like, oh no, don't worry about that at all. He's like, I don't think they were paying attention, even though my voice was amplified. I don't think they were paying attention, he said. And apparently it came to pass that we learned that somebody had given him a brownie.
Oh.
And he was doing what is referred to as tripping balls. So
Yeah.
he was traveling his kids out of the way just because he knew that something was about to come out of the woods and get him. So, but yeah, I just remember going from to like, oh, that's hilarious.
Indeed. Oh man, I try to stay away from those space brownies, and I don't know, being from Colorado, they're everywhere, so it's just
Yeah,
like those edibles are just,
yeah,
I can't handle the truth. Yes.
I'm with you.
Indeed. So, the Story Arts Workshop we have had for 5 years, and what were like? How did that form, and how did like? What are some of your favorite stories that you told, or Sarah told, or what you've heard, and all that good stuff through the years?
Let's see. Uh, it formed about 12 years ago, where I had come back home from Philly. It was like I've got to improve my game. I couldn't find anything in the Savannah Hilton Head area of that effect, and um, I talked to some friends of mine, uh, Justin Kent and Chris Susi especially, um, who were the head of a local improv troupe. Um, and I'm like, hey, I'm really interested in getting some storytelling stuff going, but do you guys have any idea about how I might do that? So Chris kind of stayed with me and kind of helped me bounce ideas back and forth and try to figure out what we could do to get some storytelling going. And it started off with a couple. We borrowed a community space where we kind of like sat down and talked a few times for what we could do, how often we could or should do things. Um, and his sister was the manager of and proprietor of the Muse Arts Workhouse, Muse Arts Warehouse, of blessed memory. It's a community theater that is no longer with us because a big monstrous art school in Savannah brought the property out from underneath of them because they don't like competition, and they probably wanted the real estate as well, but it's a little both, honestly. But in any case, I shelled out some cash and we got some story slams put together that we had at the Muse, and realized that, hey, this is pretty fun, but it was pretty lightly attended and still not very well known in Savannah, even though people tell stories all day long. It is so human. It's like one of the things that humans are able to do is extrapolate data from incomplete data sets. So if I say A, B, D, is there something that goes between that D and that B? We're already going there. We're like, yeah, it's C. But we will do that all day long, and we will figure out stories where none are. And in any case, but we figured what we needed to do instead of renting out the Muse as much as we did was just do something a little bit more mellow. We met around a campfire at we met at somebody's front porch. Actually, it wasn't really a campfire; it was a fireplace in a coffee shop. But there was a great big table at this one coffee shop, at Foxy Loxy, where we would put in a reservation for it, and have a good dozen people go around the table and tell a story or two, and did that for a while. And then it seemed like there were a whole lot of people who were coming and not telling stories, who were really interested in the stories. But it's like I need to rethink some of the things. Also, things were warming up with Sarah, and change was in the wind. So I kind of sat on that for a while. I kept doing my movie discussion group. Did that for about 6 years, and just sort of sat out on the storytelling for about 2. And then when Sarah and I got married and I moved down here, I thought, let's see if we can find a good place to do this. And different friends connected us with Hyperion, and it's been great for us since. We haven't figured out a good way or place to do a story slam, which is a little bit more of a competitive storytelling event versus just signing up and telling a story. But it's a different vibe. It's nice and it's chill, and people will come up and tell stories they hadn't planned on, or people come up and tell stories when they had no idea what we were up to at all. And there was even one time, I think after the first year, maybe towards the end of the second year at Hyperion, where it was really, really lightly attended. It was me and Sarah, and I think there were about 6 other people in the bar. And I thought, maybe it's time to hang this up. But there was a fellow at the bar who was really appreciating what he was hearing. And there was a family of 4 who came in to try, who were on the Jacksonville Craft Beer Trail, or whatever they they call it. But they weren't expecting a storytelling event, but it was the December thing, about the holidays, and there were two daughters and mom and dad, and they were all having beers, and they all jumped in and told stories. So it was kind of like, well, this is a pretty cool dynamic, and that was when I really realized that people who don't expect storytelling know storytelling, and sometimes they're willing to jump in. Um, and I find that people will hear a story, and either they think that exact thing happened to me, or that thing almost happened to me, or I never would have imagined this could have been something that happened in anybody's life. And it's a very, very humanizing thing. Very, uh, you know, it's one of the ways that we communicate our values and engender empathy, which is super super important these days. Um, uh, anyway, some of my favorite stories. Well, we had one moment where a local person came in with a cat in the hat puppet, and she was kind of trying to make up like a Dr. Seuss story on the fly, and it wasn't working at all. And she asked for a volunteer from the audience, and uh, oh, what's her name? Scadudo. She's one of the local comedians. Um, I can't think of her first name. Lovely, fun comic. Um, but she came up, and this person was like sort of interviewing her through her Dr. Seuss puppet. So one of the rules that we've adapted for the story arts workshops, open mics, is no socially and psychologically assaulting audience members with hand puppets.
I know exactly who you're talking about. It's a Vanessa.
Yes, Vanessa Scadudo. She was the tragic victim, but she played along, and she was a good sport.
That's good. She has a podcast now, and she still does stand up too. So, we
Cool.
connect on '90s hip hop all the time. So whenever we talk, that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And so, and from the Wild Goose Festival to Orlando Fringe, are you excited about the Orlando Fringe coming up on the 18th coming up?
Yeah, man, looking forward to it. Looking forward to see all the performing arts and the graphic arts and whatever else is happening at this great big festival. Looking forward to it.
Most definitely, me too. I had a hard time picking like who represented like each city well, and I had to take one from Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Daytona, Orlando, and Melbourne. So there's gonna be storytellers from all those cities, and we're all gonna party together on that stage. So tell
Sweet.
some stories.
That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, so it'll grow your network and all that good stuff, and
Sweet.
it'll be fantastic. And
Looking
so
forward to it.
I am too. I can't wait. It's my third year in a row, and I did my one man show, my one person show the first year, and then world premiered my special, and then this third year I'm bringing all my pals with me, like as much as I can. So I got two shows. One's comedy and one's storytelling. So it's a good
Nice.
combo. Yeah,
Good stuff.
indeed. So I can't wait to see you tell your story about Fringe, and I'll tell mine about Fringe, and take it as you will, as either the topic or the Fringe Festival itself, and all that good stuff. So, and so, Patrick, uh, this which storytellers in Jacksonville would you like for me to interview next? You can pick five of them that you love.
Which storytellers?
Yep.
Ooh, Sarah would be good because she's a brilliant storyteller. Um, Jen Wolfe is a really good storyteller. Uh, Hold on one second. I'm blanking on my buddy's name. Uh, there's a dog in my lap, by the way. So I'm trying to manage dog and have a conversation. And uh, Lewis, what's Lewis's last name? Dadgummit.
Betancourt.
Yes, Lewis Betancourt for sure. Interview that puppy.
Indeed.
Good man. Oh, if you can get a hold of Matt Colicello, he's brilliant as well and very generous and kind. Wonderful guy. Babs, good Lord, get you some Babs time.
Absolutely. I
You've
would
been
love.
do, you've been doing her class as well.
Oh yeah, I've been doing her pop-up shops, workshops, and so it's like I'm transitioning from stand-up to storyteller. So, and she's bringing the best out of me with all of them, and so she's helping me switch my gears from stand-up to storytelling.
Yeah,
And we've been playing games with Zip Zap Zop and word association and all that good stuff. And then
been
this,
gibberish.
yep, getting that all out of me, and so it's.
There you go.
And then on Friday we're having the story slam, so it's head over heels. So I'll be going there and doing a head over heels story so I can warm up for Orlando Fringe.
Good stuff.
So you picked some awesome storytellers, and I know them all, so it's going to be fantastic. I haven't met Luke yet, but I've met Matt at the last story slam, so he's a cool cat. So
He really
looking
is.
forward to interviewing everyone else and putting the storytelling scene on of Jacksonville up on and Orlando and wherever else I can on a platform and learning about you all. So it's gonna be fantastic.
All right, man.
Awesome, Patrick. Thank you so much for being my guest on the Storytellers and Naysayers show. And we'll see you at Fringe and at a upcoming Story Arts workshop.
All right. Thank you, man. You have a
You're
great
welcome.
one.
Thanks, bud. You too. For everyone else at home, thanks for tuning in and like, follow, subscribe, everything Patrick on the bottom there. It's in the description box below. Be well, everyone, and take care of each other. Good
Woohoo.
stuff.